And joining us now is Avril Benoit, the executive director of Doctors Without Borders in the U.S. Avril, your organization says 1 in 4 children and pregnant women in your clinics right now are malnourished. Take us inside these clinics. What do they look like right now?
Yeah, we're seeing catastrophic levels of malnutrition, and we're also seeing all the other injuries. I mean, the main reason that most people come in are for truly horrific injuries. So we've got children coming in entirely covered in third-degree burns. We've got people, including young children, whose faces have been blown off in airstrikes. We also see a lot of people coming in who have been injured in the aid distributions, the food distributions that have been really unprofessionally organized by the GHF, which is supported by the U.S. and run by Israel and various private contractors. It's not humanitarian at all. And people are also getting injured now with the airdrops, as we've heard. You know, when you have airdrops, you're creating conditions of total chaos on the ground as people rush, push, shove, desperately trying to survive by getting whatever food that they can in a highly unorganized fashion. So the hospitals that we run at Doctors Without Borders, a couple of clinics, field hospitals, outpatient clinics, and so forth, maternity, surgery, all the services that we're trying to support, not only are seeing the direct consequences of a campaign of starvation for the people in the Gaza Strip, but also of all the other effects of the violence of the fighting, which is ongoing, and the fact that there's less and less space for people to be able to survive and very few means for them to do so.
You remind us of the scope of the medical needs right now in Gaza. Can you help us understand, as we were just looking at pictures of babies who clearly are suffering from not having enough nutrients? What's happening inside these little bodies when we're talking about the effects of malnutrition? And given the circumstances, how can doctors even treat it?
Yeah, you have to treat it with therapies, with therapeutic foods, various kinds of additional supplements, medical products that the Israeli authorities are not allowing in the quantities that we need. So we don't just need airdrops of what would be the equivalent of a couple of trucks full of grains. We really need all the medical supplies to be able to treat the direct consequences. What's happening in their bodies is that their organs begin to fail. Their bodies are beginning to eat and consume all the fat and muscles. Their brains are not able to develop properly. And often, let's remember that the kids are coming in so late. They are so sick. Why? Because the parents were afraid to cross open combat zones to be able to even reach the facilities. And they also know, as parents, that a lot of the health clinics, a lot of the hospitals, which have been largely destroyed, certainly damaged, don't have the medical supplies to be able to treat the child anyway. So you can diagnose them, but you have very few means to be able to give them the treatments that they actually need to survive this.
I cannot imagine being a doctor in this setting right now, or a nurse or another healthcare provider. You've said aid workers in hospitals are fainting. They aren't even sure when they'll see their next meal. What kind of toll is this taking on them? How have your teams been able to adapt with the demand of the patients coming in and not having the types of supplies that are needed?
Well, Doctors Without Borders has roughly 1,000 colleagues working in Gaza, Palestinians, plus 35 or so international colleagues who rotate in and out. And they don't have a steady supply of food themselves. For the Palestinian colleagues, they have a good salary, but there is so little food on the market that the prices are jacked up to absolutely astronomical levels. It could be, of course, reversed. This is a choice of the Israeli authorities not to allow food in at the scale that they need. And so everybody knows that, who's working in Gaza for Doctors Without Borders or MSF and all the other organizations. You know, we are witnessing on the ground an intentionality here in this genocide. And so what they're surviving themselves is knowing that they may only eat every second day. And every second day, maybe they'll just have one meal. And so you can imagine what that does to your energy stores, your ability to focus on a surgery in front of you, your ability to really make decisions. It's a grinding level of pressure on them from a mental health point of view, let alone on a physiological point of view, just from the hunger. But it's amazing. They show up. They are working. They are helping. You see the images of aid workers transporting people on gurneys, really trying to help in the hospitals, trying to clean up, trying to do all that's necessary with what they have. The level of commitment to help each other is truly courageous.
What heroics, what heart. What is your message to the Israeli Prime Minister, who has said there is no starvation right now in Gaza?
Well, this is the propaganda line that serves the purposes for this campaign. And you know what pains me even more is to hear U.S. politicians repeating that. They should know better. They know that what their own intelligence is telling them. We know what's happening on the ground. We have U.S. sources for that. And unfortunately, we have far too many in Washington who are willing to enable, to fund, to politically provide cover, to make excuses for the actions of the Israeli government here.
Avril Benoit, thank you very much for this conversation, and thank you to all of your teams that are out there really working so hard to help so many people in need. We really appreciate it.